Throughout my life, I have crossed the borders of the city only twice. We cannot go to the seaside because we do not have permission to do so.
They wrecked many crosses and Christian symbols. They threw stones at a Christian group who was about to receive the sacrament of baptism. Our church is a church of hope.
The Promised Land, Palestine, has always been a melting pot of different cultures and religions. It is a land where Jews, Christians, and Muslims have their holy places. It has also always been a region of conflicts. In the wake of these conflicts, behind a veil of silence, Christians are slowly but surely being evicted from the cradle of their faith. The states of Israel and Palestine are considered by Christians to be the Holy Land, since it is here that the major Christian holy sites and cities are located. Christianity was one of the major religions of the region until the Arab conquest of the 7th century. Today, after centuries of conflicts, and however complicated the situation for Christians has become, the fact remains that the Christian population of the region is in severe decline. In 1947, the United Nations partitioned the Palestine region into the State of Israel and the Palestinian Authority, giving the Jews 55% of the land. Fighting broke out, and by 1949 more than 700,000 Palestinian Muslims and Christians had been expelled from their homes. After the 1967 Six-Day War, Israel extended its territory and began a process of expansion, building settlements in Arab villages under Israeli military administration. This is what the map of the Holy Land looks like today. Bethlehem, where Jesus was born; Nazareth, where he grew up; Jerusalem, where he died and resurrected. In Jerusalem, Christians constituted 25% of the population in 1905. Today, less than 2%. Nazareth, inside the State of Israel before 1948, was a city with a clear Christian majority of around 60%. Today, only 30% of its residents are Christian. 19th century Bethlehem was 90% Christian, 10% Muslim. Today, the proportions are nearer to 25% Christian and 75% Muslim. Bethlehem, though part of the West Bank and its status disputed, inhabited and claimed by Palestine, actually falls under Israeli military control. Where Palestinian Christians were once a powerful minority, they now number just 1% of a population that is squeezed between a growing Muslim majority and a rising Jewish presence, the consequence of an ever-burgeoning Israeli settlement program. The local church can attest to an unabated Christian exodus, the consequence of the region's ever more difficult situation.
They still carry the collective memory of that direct contact with Jesus. That is why this community, even though a minority, is very important to the whole universal church. Hence, our Christians are a minority in Israel twice over. That has happened for the first time in history. The Christian community lives among a majority of Muslims and Jews. That is why our life, our everyday existence, is not easy.
When Christian pilgrims come from all over the world to visit the places of Christ's birth, death, and resurrection, they find them divided by concrete walls. Begun by the Israeli government in 2002, the 670-kilometer concrete wall, up to 8 meters high, was, according to an official Israeli government statement, constructed to prevent Palestinian suicide bombers from entering Israel. The wall also leaves over 200,000 Palestinians cut off from social services, schools, places of work, and worship.
You can get into Jerusalem through 7 gates. We, Palestinians, we can only go through 2 gates. The rest are for Jews and Israeli citizens, or for those who live here on our land, in the Jewish settlements. They have their own roads and their own checkpoints.
Churches here have a list of their faithful, which they present to Israeli officials, who in turn select those people who were never in conflict with the law, not only them, but also members of their families. However, it doesn't mean that every Christian automatically gets a pass on religious holidays.
My kids do not know Jerusalem. Believe me. When we applied for a pass, my daughter got one, but I and the boys did not. And then what? To sneak in under Jewish arm fire? We gave up.
During Pope Francis's 2014 visit to the Holy Land, the Holy Father stopped his car to pray in front of this wall, a gesture that can be seen to be in line with the message of Archbishop Bernardito Auza, permanent observer of the Holy See to the UN. Israel has genuine and legitimate concerns for its security. However, such security will come not in isolation from its neighbors, but in being a part of them through a negotiated peace with the Palestinians, through the implementation of the two-state solution, which has the support of the Holy See and of the international community in general.
I think that economic issues have a huge impact, but also the closing, the restriction on our freedom, that I only have one designated road out that I can travel on, and not any other. I can go to see Jerusalem, which lies a mere 7 kilometers from here, only twice a year. And the issue is not only my wanting to visit, to walk around the city. The concern arises because various institutions, including hospitals, of which there are none here, are all based in Jerusalem.
I have another case of a mother of a priest who used to go to the hospital in Jerusalem to make the dialysis, and she came back to her home. She was very tired after the dialysis. There was a checkpoint, Israeli checkpoint. They showed the soldier all the medical reports that she needed to go back to her home to have a rest. He didn't allow, and she died there on the checkpoint.
Christians always get a pass, but only for a month. Muslims get one for 2-3 months. Christians believe that they, the authorities, act this way against us Christians in order to chase us out of here. This will indeed happen, slowly, but it will happen.
The deteriorating situation for Palestinians is very much the consequence of a growing wave of Jewish settlers moving onto Palestinian land. Today, about 500,000 Jews live in more than 100 settlements, built since Israel's 1967 occupation of the West Bank and East Jerusalem began. Government subsidies for Jewish settlers are twice as high here as those available in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. For Palestinians, the new construction wave entails them being robbed of their land, having their houses razed and their entire families deported. Presently, a mere 13% of Bethlehem's land area still belongs to its Palestinian inhabitants.
There's a security zone over there. Entry is forbidden to anyone because it is fenced off for the settlers. They check for any telltale signs on the ground. Everything is under the eye of the camera. This is all Palestinian land. Soil to cultivate lemons, date trees, thyme, all lost. The authorities give them everything. They build houses for them. They give them apartments and continue to bring them in from outside.
We have a friend who lives near Hebron. His family had a lot of land. They cultivated grapes and many other fruits. Today, there is nothing left. On lands where once grapes and other fruit used to grow, there is a huge Jewish settlement. Where can one go to complain?
An enormously difficult issue for all Palestinians are the Israeli-imposed limitations on the supply of electricity and water.
Today is already the 20th day that we are without water. My father, before he died, dug a large well, enough for us to have a shower. But the effects of the drought can be seen in front of the house as our plants wither away. Bringing water in tanks is expensive. In addition, the tanks are not clean. We do not want to risk it. Life is really hard without water. It happens all the time.
For electricity, that's the same, and Palestinians are not allowed to have generators of electricity. Now the bill is very high, and we have a lot of debts.
Another phenomenon that concerns Christians is violence.
We are threatened by the settlement. They attack us. They don't allow us to go to our fields. And they burn our olives. In many places, settlers attack the Palestinian citizens, and they threaten them, and they shoot on them even.
According to the UN's Humanitarian Affairs Office, attacks targeting various places of Christian worship almost quadrupled between 2006 and 2014.
Currently, the most sensitive, I would even say dangerous group, are Jewish settlers. They have created a kind of group called the Tag Mahir, which means you will pay the price. According to them, according to their tradition, our presence is unacceptable. They have painted a lot of graffiti on walls and on cars. They have wrecked a good few crosses and Christian symbols.
On the other side of the wall in Bethlehem, a fire on September 26, 2015, destroyed the old wing of St. Charbel's Maronite Monastery, causing serious structural damage. According to a preliminary investigation, a statement released by the police authority and the Chancellor of the Maronite Patriarchate in Jerusalem, the fire was an act of arson.
The authorities have not done enough to reduce this. To indicate those responsible, prosecute them, and put them on trial.
Not only are those inciting violent acts against Christians and other minorities rarely punished, but the military also keep a watchful eye on villages inhabited by Christians. In fact, an increasing number of Palestinians are imprisoned in pursuance of Israel's security policy.
At any time of day or night, at any time, if, for example, Jews are looking for someone, or if they know that they are in a particular town, they come here to a Palestinian city with their jeeps and their cars, and they carry away the person they want. Then they leave, and no one has the right to say anything.
Acts of child abuse number amongst the most traumatic events. In the past 12 years, Israel has detained and jailed over 7,500 Palestinian children.
Yeah, it happened with my family also. They arrested two of my brothers from our house. And they took them not for any reason, that's just to be danger for the state of Israel, they say. They spent 2 years of their life in the prison. And my little brother was 16 years old, he was a child. And they took him to prison. Now in the Israeli prisons and camp of detention, there are more than 6,000 Palestinians. And they have many serious sickness even. And they are dying in the prison, Israeli prisons. And nobody can stop with that. The modern world, the democratic world that we know in Europe, in the United States, they are silent.
The violation of Palestinian rights affects the everyday economic life and survival of Palestinian families. The per capita annual income in the Palestinian Authority is $2,000. In Israel, it's $28,000. Unemployment among Palestinians stands at up to 30%. In Israel, at 5%.
Before the Palestinian Authority was established, I was able to travel by car to a construction site where I earned $99. Now I cannot go there anymore. There is a wall. If you want to buy cigarettes, one day they cost 10 shekels, the other day 22. We are robbed on both sides.
Deprived of work opportunities, money, and hope for a better and decent life, Palestinian Christians are leaving the land of their ancestors. Many shops in Bethlehem's shopping center are closed. Invasive military control of Palestinian areas, the construction of a wall, unjustified arrests, high unemployment, and the almost daily violence have created a climate of fear that leaves many families traumatized.
Particularly Christian families started to lose their jobs. Having lost hope for the future, people began to commit suicide. This shows how tragic the situation had become for them. They reach out for alcohol and drugs. That is why children are harassed by their vexed parents. They don't know what to do with their children because they are at home all the time. That is why this happens. They don't know what to do in their life.
Despite the many challenges, the church here does what it can to provide help and care. In parish centres and special care homes, children receive material, educational and spiritual assistance.
Here we feel that we have to have our intervention to help the widow and the children. When you have addiction in the family, for example, about alcohol, drugs, and other things, we try to help the kids. We take them from their houses and we divide the work with them into criteria. One criteria where they have to live in our house here. And the other one is where we help the children after the school and they go back home. They still have their mother or their father. So the feedback is good. You know why? Because they keep coming back here.
About 60% of Palestinian Christians are young people under 18 years of age. Very often it is the little children who bring their families an income earned through hard physical work. In such a stressful home and street environment, the Catholic Church endeavours to organise the young people's free time.
We have thousands of our Christian youth in the Scouts, where they receive a good education according to the Scouts' principles. And we offered as a Latin Patriarchate a plot of land in Bethlehem for building Scout Center and also allowing summer camps with tents for the youth.
Youth emigration is yet another challenge predominantly evident among Christians.
When our students study abroad, they are the most brilliant. But in a special way, I agree. When they come back here, they don't find work to satisfy their talents and gifts. So they are tempted to go back to the countries where they were educated. So in this way, we lose the elite of the elite, the best of our young people.
The young people want to build their future. So they have to think about marriage, about their work, find job, about building house. They cannot build houses in their own land because their house that they build without a permit from Israel will be destroyed by the bulldozers. And like that, they will think to migrate from this country.
Rising unemployment and a stifled economy has led to an economic decline in the occupied Palestinian territories. An estimated 26% of Palestinians live in poverty. In some regions, especially in the countryside, as much as 38%. Many survive simply thanks to the vital work carried out by their local church.
And we try also to support with the new projects, the activities, and to create job opportunities, a job for everyone in Palestine, especially for Christians that are a minority. On the other side of the wall, where there are many Christian families, more than what we expected and we thought, and they are almost abandoned.
In response to the challenge of high unemployment, a Catholic priest, Father Raed Abu Zalia, founded the Olive Branch Foundation in 2001. He started to promote micro-projects throughout the world. Profits go to the poorest families, especially hit by the current political and economic situation, in support of their children's education. Profits also go to the newly built home for seniors in Taibeh, a 100% Christian village.
Now here is almost all our own products of Taipei. We have this traditional model with the cross of the Holy Land, 2 olive branches, and the word peace in 10 languages.
Father Raed has also launched an international prayer appeal for peace in the Holy Land. The Peace Lamp Initiative aims to distribute the ceramic peace lamps to more than 100,000 churches throughout the world, and thus encourage them to pray for peace. The initiative provides jobs for 18 people in Taibeh. Among Palestinian Christians, there are those who, notwithstanding the difficulties, have managed to keep their family businesses alive over generations. They are determined to stay here, despite the difficult situation, and continue what their forefathers began.
I was born in a very faithful family, and our parents taught us to be always with a strong faith. Especially in this land, my grandfather, he opened a small store near the Nativity Church in 1927. And he's the first generation in the store. And then my father came, the second generation, and I am the third generation. I was married and I have a child, and he will be, I hope, the 4th generation. Even we have a lot of difficulties to live in this place.
Those who have left from among Palestinian Christians dream of returning to their homeland, taken away from them following the founding of the State of Israel. Some do return, bringing hope.
When I was 19, I decided to go to Italy to continue my studies. But deep in my heart, I felt the will and the desire to return to the land of my origin, which is Bethlehem, where I was born, where Jesus was also born. I would like my children to learn Arabic, to walk in the Holy Land, to go to the schools to which I used to go. So, at the checkpoint, when I go with my family, my wife and children pass through, but I'm asked if I have a permit or not. I would like to show my wife the Sea of Galilee, Nazareth, but we are forced to stay here. Despite the difficulties, despite the lack of freedom that we used to have in Italy, we want to stay even more. Why? Because otherwise, in 10 years' time, you will find not a single Christian here, in the place where our Lord Jesus was born. So we have to suffer a little bit, to make a sacrifice, and keep on. Because it is something that I feel in my heart.
Personally, my future career is to become a computer programmer, but the reason why is because I want to, after I study in college, I want to come back here and I want to improve the country.
I am studying here in Palestine. I study economics, and I also want to serve this country. God willing, after graduation, I will try to help our people with their needs, thanks to my specialization.
This is in our blood.
Yeah,
we can't leave.
It's our home, we can't leave.
I feel safe in this place.
Even if we leave, we will come back eventually.
We will return.
Yeah.
This is our country, we love it.
We tell them this is the land of the cross, the land of Jesus. We have to carry our cross on us like Jesus did.
If anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. This is what we are trying to learn and live. Live with people with their suffering. Despite the killings committed by Israel, peace and love in the world will not take place without prayer. Prayer is the source of everything and the hope of our contemporary faith. I discovered that we cannot live without hope. We do not see each other sitting at home, not knowing when death will come. During these moments, we need hope. Our hope is all we have in life. My challenge is youth, Palestinian Christian youth, who are a little bit too far from God. They need people prepared to come closer to them, people close to their problems, their everyday life.
Although the hope and future of the church lies in the strength of local Christians prepared to stay here, their ability to remain, the essential encouragement they need to remain, comes from the support they receive from the universal church.
Do not forget the Holy Land. Pray for the Holy Land. Love the Holy Land. All Christians are essentially born of the Mother Church of Jerusalem. When you arrive here as pilgrims, you certainly do it for your own good, but you also do a lot of good to us, Christians of the Holy Land. We wait for large numbers of you, pilgrims to the Holy Land.